How's everybody doing?
I'm good.
Get through this week, then we've just got 2 more weeks of classes and then finals already. It's come around very quickly. Okay, well, I'm going to get going because I have some very relevant information to share with you today. I thought I would take a slightly different approach and rather than a lot of me talking, I'm going to do a lot of showing you information. And I've used the Center for Disease Control website because they're pretty good at keeping that up to date. They update a lot of the information daily, and at worst, they update it every week. So it's really current, and I think it's important when we're looking at disease information to stay current because, you know, especially with the situation we're faced with now with coronavirus, you know, this was a completely new virus last year and, well, just at the end of the year before. And so there's, you know, ongoing research that changes the information on a regular basis. So we're going to look at some of that info today and jump in and yell if you've got questions. I have put this new PowerPoint with all the links up on the Blackboard in the lecture notes folder. So if you want to dig into this information in more detail in your own time, you'll have all the links to go to. So, let's have a look here. Okay, so all right, so a review, I expect you know the transmission situation since we're being asked to wear masks is because the virus can be transmitted through droplets that we are breathing out. So when you breathe out, if you breathe out onto your hand, you'll notice your hand is a little bit damp because there's always water in that breath that we breathe out. And so that virus can come out in that water in those droplets, and anyone who's close by could possibly pick that up. So we'll see that the recommendations are still masking and distancing to try to prevent this primary transmission pathway from gaining some traction. All right? And I'm going to go to this link. Let me know if you're not seeing this. I shared my screen, so I'm hoping that means you see everything I click on. Okay. And so what I've tried to do is so what I've tried to do is find information at the CDC that is current and I think very relevant right now. So one of my concerns, my personal concern, so this is not a judgment, and a lot of people probably will not agree with me. My personal concern is that we're going into summer break, and I don't know about you guys, but I am busting a gut to get out of my house and go play somewhere lovely, right? And see my friends and things things like that. So, I can only imagine that at your age, you've already been asked, you've already missed basically one summer holiday where you had to stay in lockdown and you couldn't go anywhere, and so asking you to be careful again this summer, I think that's a big ask of you. But my concern is if we don't ask that of you, and the whole university population across America goes and spends the summer partying with their friends and catching up and going to the beach or going to the pool, and you're not masking and you're not being careful, that we're all so excited to come back to school in person in August, and by August we may not be allowed to come back in person because the cases are getting worse again. So I think that it's really relevant right now to try to still be disciplined. It doesn't mean you can't go see people, just be careful about how you're doing it. So, this page talks about how it spreads, which we've already seen. We know that it spreads very easily from person to person. It's spreading most commonly during close contact. The good thing about the summer is that hopefully you'll be spending a lot of time outside with your friends, and it seems to be a bigger problem if you are indoors with a group with not very good ventilation. So, that doesn't mean that the beach is safe. It means that it's better than being at a barbecue or being at an outside pool or being at the beach or up in the mountains is going to be better than being indoors, but it doesn't make it safe. Okay? There's also information here about reinfection. So there have been cases of reinfection. There's a lot, they're often reported in the media, so it's a big deal, but it's actually a very small number of people that get reinfected, because once you've had COVID, then your immune system should be preventing you getting another infection of that, all right? So it could be that reinfection might be happening from some of the new variants. So your immune system has developed antibodies specifically against the viral load that you were exposed to. And then if you're exposed to one of the new variants, then that could be a problem. If you're a smoker, you're more likely to get reinfected, things like that. There's also information here about the variants that we're seeing. So there's some concern about the number of variants, the mutations that are occurring. It's a little bit like drug use in sport. The people who are using the drugs are always 1-2 steps ahead of the people who are developing the tests for the drugs. It's the same thing with the virus. It's mutating at a rate, we're always a little bit behind the viral mutations. So, that means that we still have to be careful. We can't just stop wearing our masks or stop distancing. And there's lots of links and information here for you. Again, if you're interested in following up on that information. Okay. There's a map here so you can track the cases, the confirmed cases that have been caused by mutated versions of the virus rather than the original one. And yeah, it's very interesting information. How do we protect our home? We'll look a little bit more at that in a while. So symptoms, again, you probably have heard more than enough about symptoms, but it's, I think, again, important to pay attention to the symptoms because no one's going to show all of them necessarily, right? Not everybody loses their smell or their taste, but that's a big red flag, right? If you've lost your sense of taste, that's a highly unusual thing to happen. So that would be a big flag. Nasal congestion or runny nose is a little bit difficult right now because we're in allergy season, right? So that one's a bit difficult to pick up on, okay? So we want to pay attention to the whole list. The incubation period, that data doesn't seem to have changed, so it still seems to be anywhere from 2 to 14 days from exposure. Okay, and let's have a look at the updated symptoms here. I don't think there's anything new on that list, but again, shortness of breath or difficulty breathing might be difficult to pick up right now because of allergies, but cough or a fever or an ongoing headache. Some people have exhibited nausea and diarrhea. So again, not everybody exhibits all the same symptoms, so it's important to pay attention to those. You want to make sure that if there's persistent pain, if there's a fever that's over like 101, 102, somewhere around there, you should be going to the emergency room. So some information here about what to do, when is it the point in time that you need to actually go to the ER, because if you're not exhibiting severe symptoms, then they don't really want you going to the ER and taking more viral load into the ER, right? So, which symptoms can you manage at home, and which symptoms are the point at which you need to go to the ER? Okay. So people who are at higher risk, anyone with an underlying medical condition, people who are currently undergoing like chemo or radiation treatment, someone who has existing lung disease, and again, where is that? People at increased risk. So this is a good page because it has all these links down the side that help you out. People at increased risk. So older adults, people with medical conditions, ladies who are pregnant. So if you are living or visiting with any of these groups, then you want to take further precautions. Maybe catch up with them outside on the patio or in the garden, or even in the front yard if they don't have a garden. Because we don't want to put these individuals at more risk. And I suspect if you click on here, it's gonna give you one of the great things about the CDC website, or possibly not a great thing about the website, is that it lets you drill down a lot, and so you can end up spending like hours looking at all the links without meaning to. Okay, so yeah. If you're a caregiver of someone who is at risk, you need to be particularly careful. If you've got someone in your family who's pregnant and you're going to go home and see them over the summer, be careful, right? So, prevention. So this is their latest advert promo piece for trying to encourage people to be more careful. So they've got some, the typical things, stay 6 feet apart. And the 6 feet apart I was particularly interested in. I was looking for this because there was some talk earlier this year that the recommendation was reduced to 3 feet apart. But I could not find anywhere on the CDC website that said 3 feet, not 6 feet. So I don't know whether the 3 feet recommendation was a different government body, whether the 3 feet was rejected at some point because we're not seeing a decrease as quickly as we expected in numbers. I don't know. All I can tell you is that the only distancing information I could find at cdc.gov was to stay 6 feet apart. All right, so that would be my suggestion. Remember that people without symptoms can still spread the virus. So if you know someone who knows someone who's got the virus, then you know that person could be carrying enough viral load to spread that around. If you get any symptoms of feeling unwell, please stay home. Okay. Make sure that you're using a face covering, right? This is an ongoing battle in certain parts of the country. You know, certain places are being very good about wearing their masks, and other people, other areas or states are not being very careful about being diligent with their masks, right? So prevent getting sick, quarantine if you think you could have been exposed, right? We'll talk about vaccines in a minute. Let's have a look at masks. So, the masks need washing on a regular basis, right? So I have like 15 of the flipping things now, and I only wear them once, right? And then they go in the wash. One of the things that I think, bless you.
Thank you.
One of the things I think that it's important to pay attention to is how you wear your mask. So I see a lot of people around town and in Walmart who only have their masks over their mouth, right? That's no good. It has to cover your nose and your mouth, okay? And there's information here about how to store them, how to wash them, improve how your mask protects you, so make sure that it fits snugly, that it's not all baggy at the sides. You want masks with layers, or you want a mask with a pocket so that you can put a filter in, and the filters are expensive, so don't go and get a shop vac box and use the blue, you know, you can cut a blue piece and slip that into the pocket if you've got that pocket. Okay, so lots of information again on how to wear them properly, how to make them fit, right? There's information on sanitizer, there's information on social distancing, there's information on how to protect your home, right? If you're in an area that is at high risk still. And I can't remember why I had 2 links here, but there must have been a reason. Oh, because it takes me to the nice picture. Okay, how are we going to slow the spread? All right, so we've got to continue wearing our masks, boring though it is. We've got to continue staying 6 feet apart from people we don't live with. We need to get vaccinated, and we'll come back to that in a minute. We want to avoid crowds and poorly ventilated indoor spaces. So, you know, the summer is a time when we generally get together with a lot of other people. And, you know, this summer, again, we're going to have to be more diligent about that than we want to be, right? But if we don't want to see things get worse again by the end of the summer, it's just going to have to be that way for another year. And if we're careful this year, then maybe by next year we can just ditch the masks and ditch the distancing, okay? One of the things that I found really interesting, which certainly is not happening around here, everyone 2 years or older should wear a mask in public, right? I do not see that when I go shopping around here. Now, at the Child Development Center on campus, they do have the children wearing their masks indoors. But, you know, we've got to wear the masks and stay 6 feet apart. All right? And here's, again, wash your hands often, avoid crowds, don't go to restaurants, bars, fitness centers, don't go to the movies. A lot of the films that are coming out are being simultaneously released in a streaming form by one of the platforms, depending upon which company made the film. So, you know, they are trying to provide access to new films without you having to go to a cinema. So that life isn't completely dull. Okay, here's our vaccine stuff. So, I was lucky enough to get vaccinated very early in the year because in New Mexico they added educators into the first block of vaccines along with first responders and retirement workers and things like that. So I got vaccinated, my first one January, I got my booster in February, so I've been very lucky. Now everybody in every state across the country, anyone 16 and older can get their vaccine now. It's free, it's safe. So if you haven't registered to get your vaccine yet, please do so as quickly as possible. Again, you know, my personal feeling is that a student population, you know, it's asking you guys to give up your summers again, I think is not realistic. But that means we need as many of you vaccinated as possible, right? So, and even then, you have to wear a mask, you need to distance. We still don't know enough about whether someone who's vaccinated can transmit the virus without getting the virus, right? So there's a lot of research going on looking at that right now, Okay? So just because we're vaccinated doesn't mean we can start walking around without a mask on. Right? Yesterday I was on campus. Yesterday? Monday. No, Monday. I was on campus and this chap walked past me with no mask and smoking. So smoking isn't allowed on campus, and you're not allowed on campus without a mask on. So I was like, okay, you know, I mean, this is the problem. There are people that are just blatantly ignoring the rules, right? So let's have a look at some of the information on vaccines. So, as I said, everybody 16 and older can get the vaccine now. Please understand that the vaccine isn't just to help you, it's to help everybody, right? So the only way that we know of right now to start slowing down the spread of this virus is to get people vaccinated, all right? So it's effective, it's safe. Here's a link. As soon as you're eligible, so you guys are all eligible now. So the recommendation from the healthcare experts is that everybody gets vaccinated as quickly as you can. Right? Once you're fully vaccinated, it takes about 2 weeks after your booster dose to be fully vaccinated. Now, we'll talk a little bit about the vaccines. You got, as I said, you've got to wait for your 2 weeks. Once you've had your vaccines, then you can visit friends indoors, as long as you're wearing a mask if you're with people who are at risk, right? But if you're with people who are not at risk or have been fully vaccinated themselves, you no longer have to wear a mask indoors with those particular people, right? You can travel domestically now if you're vaccinated without having to do a load more extra additional testing. But that doesn't mean that you can attend large gatherings and parties, okay? So do be careful there. Now, how do you find a vaccine? I will actually put up a link today that we have for New Mexico that you can click on to get yourself registered. But if you are not in New Mexico, then using the links on the CDC page, if you haven't found a link yet, that they will send you to Vaccine Finder, and that will help you within your own state. Okay? And here's your local health department. So you've got a couple of options here to find out how you can get vaccinated if you're not here in New Mexico. All right, the vaccines that are available. So this is very interesting because it's very different to what's happening in the UK right now and in Europe. So over in the States, the only ones that are currently being used are the Pfizer and the Moderna, and they're both 2-shot vaccines. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine is a 1-shot vaccine, but it is on hold in the US at the moment, which is interesting because it went on hold in Europe in end of February, beginning of March, and they ran some additional tests. So the reason it went on hold was because they were seeing a very small number of individuals present with blood clots that can be lethal, right? So it was put on hold in Europe. I think Germany led that because they were seeing these clots in a small number of people, and they ran some additional testing, and the hold on Johnson & Johnson in the UK and Europe was lifted because they decided that the research was indicating that the link between the vaccine and the clots was too weak to blame the vaccine for the clots, right? And then it was put on hold earlier in April in the States, and that process is ongoing at the moment. So they're doing some additional testing. Any leg pain or abdominal pain, they're saying you need to go get. If you had a Johnson & Johnson vaccine and you're exhibiting any pains in your legs or your stomach or shortness of breath, you need to go get emergency attention, and they'll update. So at the moment you only have 2 viruses. In the UK they also have one that was, I can't remember the name of it, it begins with an A, that was developed by medical team at Oxford University, and that's been very, it doesn't give you quite as strong a protection, but basically anything over 55–60% protection gives you as much protection as any other vaccine that you would take for other diseases. So, but the UK vaccine isn't available over here. So you've got Pfizer, you've got Moderna. The one I had was Moderna. And let's click here on the vaccine safety. So we've had millions now of people vaccinated in the States. We're doing quite a good job at the vaccination. And they are, as they say, very safe, other than this issue with the Johnson & Johnson, but that's on hold. So there's no reason to be concerned that they're not safe. The number of people who have become unwell and had side effects after a vaccine is quite small. You know, the typical side effects. So when I had my first one, I couldn't. My arm got very sore, and for 2 days I couldn't lift my arm up past here, and that was it. My partner had a low-grade headache for a couple of days. When we got our second one, which was the one everyone was saying, oh, when I got my second one, oh my God, I was so ill, and we didn't even know we had the booster shot, right? So we had no symptoms whatsoever from the second shot. I don't know whether, I know that the police chief on campus was very unwell after his second one, but he had already had COVID, so his viral load was a lot higher than mine, right? So I don't know, because I haven't read the research, but maybe that is a link that people that have had COVID, when they get the vaccine, tops up their viral load, and so they get a little more unwell. I'm not sure. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing to be worried about. Worst case scenario, you might get a low fever or a headache for a couple of days, right? But the benefits are enormous, right? So it's really important that we get as many people as possible vaccinated quickly. And there's another link here you can click on. The precautions haven't changed. And I think that's it. So, questions? Who's had their vaccine?
I haven't. I have.
Who's this? Who's that? Hold on, let me get my people up so I can see. Nick and Tafari, well
Yes,
done.
ma'am.
Well done, those people. Excellent. Yeah. You know, I've never had a flu vaccine in my life because when I was a teenager and a young adult, actually, and a young child, I was a pretty sick person. I caught everything that was going. I had measles and chickenpox and German measles and mumps and, I mean, anything that happened, I got it. And so I was always worried about getting a flu vaccine because I was like, well, they're going to give me the flu. And my immune system is so shoddy that I'm going to get ill, right? And so I never do it. And it's an ongoing argument in our household that I don't go and get a flu vaccine. I'm going to have to change my stance now because it didn't even cross my mind not to go and get a COVID vaccine. So I guess I'm going to have to go get flu vaccines from now on. But, you know, it's not going to make you sick. It isn't going to give you COVID. It's just giving you, you know, because they take the proteins off the virus that they inject. So it's a whole different entity than a real viral load, all right? So yeah, get it done as quickly as you can so that you can at least enjoy your summer a little bit more than you would be able to without it, right? And let's make sure that we can come back to school in August because this is unbearable. It's unbearable. I don't think any of us want to go into a third semester trying to do school like this. All right? Questions? Comments? So I hope there was something there that you didn't know, or at least that you know now where you can go and find valid information, you know, because that's important. you need to have access to the real information, not the phony stuff that floats around on the internet. Yeah, and that's it. Friday. I know I mentioned this on Monday, but I'm going to say it again. Friday, we don't have an isolation activity because I want you on Friday to spend time with your presentation partner working on your information and your PowerPoints. All right, so remember to talk to each other ahead of Friday. Either email each other in Blackboard, or if you've swapped phone numbers, make a plan ahead of time to be in your group collaborate room on Friday to work on your presentation. All right? You don't want to leave that until the last minute. So I'm giving you this Friday and next Friday to work with your partner and collaborate on an amazing presentation for class. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Hopefully everybody has been in touch. I know there were a couple of groups that were having trouble getting hold of each other, but hopefully that's resolved now, and you can all take, I don't know, 45 minutes on Friday to spend some time on that presentation and get it at least started. All right? Okay. And on that note, I shall say ta-ra!